Hello and welcome to episode 415 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Now, I'm really thrilled with today's guests because they're an absolutely incredible band. And if you haven't heard LS Dunes right now, what are you waiting for? They've just brought out a brand new album. It's called Violet. And as we sit here today, it's my album of the year. Yes, we might only have just hit February, but it's unbelievable. I am so obsessed with this album. It's the only album I've had on literally for the last 2 weeks, and every time I listen, I fall in love more and more. So I'm thrilled today to announce that on today's episode, I'm joined by Anthony Green. What an incredible songwriter, what an incredible performer, vocalist, and on today's interview, I can safely say it feels like I've known him my whole life. It's such a great interview and will be coming up in just a couple of minutes' time. On my last episode, episode 414, which was out 3 weeks ago, which is a long time for me, I was joined by Amy Jo Doherty. A huge thank you to everyone that listened, a huge thank you to Amy that took the time to share it, and everyone else that took the time to comment and enjoyed the episode. It did really well and a great start to the year, so thank you so much to everyone that listened. But today it's a big one, and I really can't stress enough, LS Dunes are the band right now, and this chat is one of my favourites. So let's get to it. Here's me and Anthony talking all things music. So Anthony, welcome to the Mark and Me podcast.
Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. What I'd love to do today for the listeners out there that maybe discover this band because of this podcast or go out there and have known a little bit but don't know the full story of your band is take it right back to the start. So I'm not just talking the start of LS Dunes, I'm talking the start of your career. And what I'm always interested in when I get songwriters and vocalists and guitarists on the podcast is taking it back to the kind of days that you may have had a paper round or a part-time job and you were a kid earning that money to go and buy yourself those first records that make you fall in love with music. And I wondered, if we were going down a trip down memory lane today, what was that first album that you remember buying that made you absolutely love music?
Well, I think the album that made me love music was probably something that I heard when I was like really young. Like I can remember listening to Patsy Cline and James Taylor, hearing my mom sing like Carly Simon songs,
Yeah.
and just feeling that intensity when when a song has like an emotional core to it. Um, but I think like my relationship with participating with music sort of, I don't know, I mean, when I was really little, I had older brothers that would have like high school dances, and my parents would chaperone, and I can remember going to these dances as like a little like 7, 8 year old kid, and like dancing to like Michael Jackson songs, and like older kids, like, because it's like there's a little kid dancing, they're like, oh my god, this is funny, you know. But I can remember being like in a circle of older kids watching me like lose my shit to Michael Jackson and thinking like, oh, I like this, you know,
Yeah.
and being like, when's the next dance that you guys are going to chaperone? Like, can I go? You know, like, um, and like as I got older, just my relationship with music as like an entity sort of like took it. It's like it was like a little journey, you know. Like
Yeah.
I would watch MTV, I would listen to the radio, and I would devour all the music that my brothers listened to and my parents listened to. And then as I got older, I discovered, you know, the like my local, you know, punk and hardcore scene had shows. And it was the type of thing where like you could just go alone and meet people there. And people were like, would talk to you there. You know, like it was like there would be like a YMCA or a VFW or a basement filled with people who were the type of people that wouldn't let somebody sit alone at the lunchroom.
Yeah.
you know? And it was like an inclusive feeling where it was like with grade school and high school, like it was click, everybody was like mean to each other, but I found through the punk and hardcore community, like a total acceptance. You didn't have to look a certain way or act a certain way. You didn't have to be a macho tough guy. You didn't have to be anything. You sort of just had to love music.
Yeah.
And that's where my like relationship with music really started to to take off. I think I would go to these shows and wanted to start a band so I could play at a show, and like tried to save money so that I could put on a show that I could pay bands to play, and like um just wanted to participate, like just wanted to participate. When I saw people hardcore dancing, like I thought that was like participating to me. It seemed like it was like part of the ritual, Uh, and when you go to like an old hardcore show, you see the crowd, you see the people playing the music, and there isn't like this grand distinction of who is having the cathartic experience. Everybody in there is like playing this role so that we can all just explore outer realms,
I really love that.
Yeah.
And like, there doesn't need to be an acceptance, like to enter this cool club. You don't have to be a certain, group of friends, or you don't need to be, the real popular guy at school. You're just accepted because you're there for the same reason, which is to see live music and hopefully take something away from that gig that makes you become a fan for life.
Oh yeah. That's very well said.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And talking about live music, I'm always intrigued those first gigs. And sometimes people, I think, don't tell me the truth on this podcast and try and make out this is great gig. Like, yeah, I went to see Metallica and all this. But do you remember that first show that you went to where you literally were like, this is all I want to do. This is exactly the life I want ahead of me?
I do actually, and it wasn't my first like real concert. It was a concert at the Trihampton YMCA, and it was there were these two local bands. One of them was called the Idea Men, and the other one was called James Love Jackson. And they played the same night with a bunch of other bands. And the Idea Men were like dudes, just like a bunch of skinny, like unathletic, like art goth looking dudes. Very just like cool and chill people, like just like I don't know. I was like obsessed with them. But when they played, it was like violent. It was like they would be aggressive, but not in like a macho masculine way, almost like in a transcending, the idea of feminine and masculine energy to like balance out everything, to like
Yeah.
all light and shadow. And like these guys would hurt themselves almost playing. And like this singer, this guy Justin, he was like screaming and crying, but it was like so visceral. I just never heard anything like it. And it spoke to a thing in me that I wanted to express, but I don't know if I had the courage. And I think it gave me the courage to express some of that discomfort that I was feeling as a kid.
I think with the time we've got, it'd be impossible to go through your whole musical journey. So I am going to fast forward and talk mostly about Alice Tunes today because
Sure, whatever.
there's another episode there where we can talk about all your previous lives. But the the reason we're here is obviously promoting the brand new album. But what I am interested in is the mentality going into this project because when you see bands out there, and especially the ones I interview that are starting out for the first time as their first major band, that mentality is that we want to be the biggest band in the world. We want to get out there. We want to fill out arenas. But you guys have got a completely different story. You all met. You've all got these incredible achievements already under your belt. So, let's be honest, you've got those incredible bands that you've all come from. And when you mix Coed, My Chemical Romance, Thursday, Circa Survive, all the bands together, you kind of don't have probably goals to go after because you've already got a number of them achieved. So do you go into it as just a bit more relaxed and a bit more like you're here just to have fun and enjoy being around each other without these kind of, oh, we need to get to this milestone? And is there less pressure for you?
Yeah, yeah. There's a total void of pressure, that I think that we wouldn't have had we not had other things that have absorbed that
Yeah.
type of pressure, um, for better or worse, like, when you spend 25 years building a band and building like, a fan base of people who support your band and you do all that stuff, there is a pressure to, even if it's to with like uphold a certain type of integrity that you have in that, there's still a pressure. And with this project, this is our opportunity to kind of do whatever we want. And in order sometimes to be selfless, you have to be selfish first. And
Yeah.
I think that the message and the whole purpose of this project for us was our love of music, sharing our love of music and creation. And I think making the nucleus and message of it just being like, hey, this music is there for you always. It doesn't like, music and creativity is there for you always. It doesn't always need to be a thing that's going to pay your bills or define you at that moment or define your brand. You know what I mean?
It's
Or
so
like
true.
it doesn't need to be comparative. It can be whatever you want it to be in your life. And so to be able to send that message with our output, it's just like this is about the love of music, about the love of making music with friends, and um, to kind of give it away and be like, you can do this. Everybody can. This is here for everybody, whether it's illustration or sculpting or poetry or anything, writing, journalism, like just doing something that expresses, your admiration for something a little bit greater, whether it's art or music or just that connection of expression. I think that's the message.
Does it feel, and I know you can't speak for the other members of the band, but does it feel like there's a freedom that you don't have to write songs that fall into a certain like circle or criteria? Like Frank, if he writes a song and it doesn't sound like My Chemical Romance, people would be like, hang on, that's not right. That needs to be a certain genre. It needs to have a certain guitar tone. It needs to sound like the other stuff. Where for yourself now, and I'm sure with Tim and Tucker and everyone, you can just think, let's leave all the baggage at the door. Let's not worry about our music fitting a certain criteria and just do what we want. It might be like a release. Like we don't want to sound like Coed. We don't want to sound like Thursday. We want to sound like something completely different and just throw it all into the mix and then see what works.
Yeah, that is what this project gives us.
I
It
love
gives
that.
us the ability to just try anything we want. It's pretty
That's great,
crazy.
isn't it? Because there's no kind of boundaries. You can do whatever anything you want, and no record label or no management are going to say, "I'm sorry, that's not exactly what we're looking for."
No, yeah, it's funny because there's such a relationship you have with the people who support you in this industry.
Yeah,
And I think that it can be daunting for an artist to feel like, oh, like what does the audience expect of me? And with this project, like the audience for this project just wants us to feel authentically connected to what we're doing. That's it. And when you hone your antenna and put everything in that tuning of like, hey, you're either along for the ride or, there's a lot of other music to enjoy out there. There's so much. But this is like us getting to experiment outside those boundaries that we might have formed either for ourselves or in our other things. Like, that's pretty freeing. And I would like that, as a listener.
definitely.
Like if I heard an artist that was like not, if I heard an artist being able to do that, experiment and be fully present in what they're doing without having to worry about fulfilling some kind of legacy, then, I think that's exciting to me. So it's cool to be a part of it.
Obviously, any band, whoever you are, at whatever stage, only gets that one debut album, and it's your kind of chance to leave a mark on the industry or set out who you are. And with Past Lives, surely, as confident as you are, or with the great musicianship you have behind you and the great, great kind of friendships you have as a family, you never would have expected the response it got because everyone I know, everyone at festivals last summer, the buzz behind you guys, the music of Past Lives is just this complete chaotic debut that everybody went crazy for. And you must have sat there and thought, we got it right.
Honestly, I did have that we got it right feeling, but I had it way before we played a show
Wow.
or people heard Past Lives. Like when the band started, Past Lives was written while we were all stuck in our homes going through the pandemic together, going through a lot of personal stuff together. And in the creation of it, we all found like a unified salvation
Yeah.
in the music. And so in taking the band and making the band like a thing that tours and is like a living entity, we wanted to really bring that mentality of like, hey, this saved us through the pandemic and it saves us all the time. And here's the thing, how we can really explore that, what that is about, this music saves us, you know. And like having the ability to do that, it almost feel I almost feel guilty sometimes with it, you know. uh with Past Lives, I would say that, you know, we sort of discovered the thing within the message of Violet while we were making Past Lives. And yeah, I honestly can't even believe I get to be in this band, to be honest.
I
You
like
know,
how humble you are and how honest you are because it must feel like a dream. Those musicians and
it
yourself,
does.
you've earned that yourself. It's not just, a set of musicians and yourself. You're part of it. All five of you have had incredible journeys, and sometimes you see, and I'm not saying it's like a super group, but you see these bands come together and it doesn't work. And
Hmm.
it just doesn't gel. Or you go and see them live and you're like, okay, I can see the band just wanted a break from what they're normally doing.
Yeah.
But it feels like you were always meant to do this. It always feels like your live show, especially at the festivals I saw you last summer. It was like, yeah, these guys are hungry for it. Even though you've all had success already, you were like,
Yeah.
we want to prove that we're not just this group of, musicians that are just here for the sake of it.
I think that like success is such a strange thing to define, and for all of these guys, like there is a like a like a like a like a benchmark, like a status quo idea of success that like everybody in this band could say like, okay, they've accomplished that.
Yeah.
But everybody in this band's version of success is really about them making the best music continuously. It's never like, okay, we've arrived, we're successful. Like the way that Tucker and Frank and Travis and Tim all operate musically, like they're in this perpetual state of arriving someplace. They're never actually just getting there. So they're always seeing their craft is growing. They're always seeing their relationships with music as expanding to a point where they can get more honest and more outside of what your comfort zone is so that you can, I don't know, really connect. And that's such a gift for me to be in a group with people who don't have to worry about whether or not like the tour is going to pay the rest of their bills, but can worry about like whether or not it's going to fulfill that artistic internal connective drive to like make that connection. That's a gift that I don't think a lot of people get to experience when making music, especially people who like then get thrusted into a situation where the music then becomes how they make their living, you
Yeah.
know. Seen a lot of artists just get cooked like that, where it's like, yeah, you know, when you were working a 9 to 5 job and you barely had time to make music, you did it always and you devoted all this thing to it. And now that they make their whole living doing it, it becomes more arduous and it becomes, there's more pressure. And then it can really dilute your relationship with the muse. And I think all of us were looking for a place where we could really nurture our relationship with the muse. And when you do that, you nurture your relationship with anybody who's supporting you. And more importantly, like as a group, like we became closer friends between Past Lives and now. And I think when anybody talks about the records sounding differently or what's different about Violet other than us being together writing it as opposed to being in our homes is that we're closer, you know, we're closer as human individuals and we know why we're doing this. You know, we're not just out there trying to build a brand, you know what I mean? Or like
No, it's a
trying to,
complete different mentality, isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
I
it,
mean,
it really is.
putting out Past Lives was incredible and the response was brilliant, which we've discussed. But seeing in such a short space of time you evolve as musicians, and now knowing that you've all become closer friends because of it and a tighter unit, the new stuff, what I've heard so far, I've only just been sent the album today, but what I've heard from the singles that are out, it does feel like the next stuff is on a completely different level. It's a huge jump, and you should be so proud.
Do you find yourself being able to enjoy it? Or is it a thing where, like, since you had a while to listen to past lives and you got used to past lives, does it feel like when you listen to it that you're listening to something that is evolving, like a progression, or what does it feel like for you?
That's a really good question. So my favorite bands are Thrice. I absolutely adore them. I adore Radiohead, Paramore, and they're always bands that from each
Age.
album never play it safe and
Yep.
will always take that kind of risky step where they don't rest on their morals and kind of you hear the songs and think, oh, they've just done the same album again, copy paste. So putting you into the same category as those guys and seeing I suppose the maturity and the music grow, and you've all evolved massively. I feel that like I'll listen to a song from the new album and think this is the best song you've ever done so far. Holy shit. And then I'll hear another single and I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is even better." So I think it's just also exciting. I think
That's
it's
so
the fact
cool.
that a lot of bands put out a debut, pour their whole heart and soul into it, the budget, everything they've led up to for years, to try and get over the line of releasing that first produced album. But it feels like I've only just kind of digested your first piece of work of Past Lives, and already you're like, here we go.
Yeah.
That's great as a listener.
That makes me happy. That makes me really, and I'm flattered and honored to be even mentioned in the same like sentence as those bands, as Thrice and Radiohead and Paramore. Um, you know, that makes me happy to hear, because when I listen to those artists and I listen to their records, I feel each time the same thing that you do, where it's like, oh, yeah, like you hear the accumulation of all of the influences and all of the experiences that each member has had in their life between album cycles. And
Yeah,
those are bands that write about their life and their life experiences. And I think LS Dunes being a band that writes about our life experiences and writes about our relationship with each other and with music and with our with nature, I think being compared to bands like that is like an honor.
yeah. How does it feel now? I mean, the album, how long ago was it mastered? How long have you been sat on this album?
It took a while. Like, I think we were finished recording it around January, around this time last year, and then we mixed. Took a while mixing it, um, and then yeah, it's been about a year. It's been about a year. Which
I,
was the same thing with Past Lives. Like, we had Past Lives done, and then we didn't release it for a year. And so,
yeah,
like, there's like a weird thing that happens with an album when you sit on it for that long, where it can like deflate in your own mind a little bit. That hasn't happened for Violet with me. Um, like, the songs, because of the way that each kind of member will magnetically elevate your own output. Um, I still hear the album and I'm like, holy shit, how the fuck did we do this? And I had this feeling at one point when we were done the album and we hadn't played together in a while, where I was like, it's going to be tough to make something better than this.
yeah.
Because I honestly don't, like, I felt like, holy shit, like, I can still listen to the songs like Violet and be like, how the fuck did that happen? Like, how did I have anything to do with it? But then we'll be at rehearsal and Frank will start playing a riff and Tucker will start playing a beat to it. Tim will start playing a bass line. Travis will start playing a lead. I'll start singing. And we'll jam for 15 minutes on two parts, going back and forth. And at no point will anyone stop and be like, this should happen this amount of time. We just follow each other. And in that jamming, I get a feeling that is better than anything I hear captured on the records.
Wow.
And it's also like a light. coming from the horizon of going, oh, there's so much more out there. There's so much more for you guys to discover together. And each time we get together to play music, there's this like 20 minutes of jamming that happens before we get our work done of like, all right, let's figure out how to like play these songs. And in those moments is where I hear everything that the universe is trying to tell us about what we need to do together. And I think that the longer we stick together, making music together, helping each other through whatever is going on in our lives so that we can give ourselves fully. I think as long as we do that, then we're going to be making cool stuff together.
So that kind of answers my next question. There's not really a expiry date, is there? I mean, you guys must be so happy that you all gravitated towards each other. You've made music, it's working, you all love each other, you go on tour, and it feels like a whole fresh new start for you all, and your best music is still to come. So for me, it's like that must be like you're pinching yourself every day.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like a confidence in having faith in each other.
Yeah,
And it's like an unshakable confidence, where we know, like, even if the people don't like the record, like as long as we are enjoying the process, like there's so much more to be done, you know um and that confidence and faith in one another is like is everything for the group. And it's just constantly reinforced, like I don't go out looking for validation as much as I used to in things, but like when I hear you talk about the reception of past lives, or even like the perception of the band that you have, like our band, like I'm in all of it, and it reinforces my own mindset of like, okay, I just need to focus on what I'm doing and doing it in a pure way, and then everything else is going to take care of itself.
yeah. And I suppose when I mean, it's only just over a week until you're over in the UK, which is crazy. It's gone really quick. I
Yeah.
remember seeing the poster and thinking, oh, that's ages away. And it's
Me
literally,
too. Me too.
wow. And I wonder, do you still get nervous going on stage and knowing that if you're doing a support slot, in the US with like Rise Against, and then obviously over here in the UK, that's your time to maybe win over a crowd that didn't purchase a ticket to see you. They came and
Yeah.
thought, I want to see Rise Against, but if they leave at the end of that night with a t-shirt or a vinyl or just, I want to check that band out, that was really awesome what I heard tonight, you've kind of set out what you went to do.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. I do get nervous.
Yeah,
And I get nervous for the same reason that anybody gets nervous, but primarily my nerves come from me not wanting to ruin it for myself. Because I've had years of playing music where I would look at the crowd for validation. I would look outside of myself for
yeah,
validation. Like, and so it doesn't matter whether you're playing support or whether you're headlining show, if you're connected to what you're doing, if your confidence in the faith that you have in each other and in music is strong, then you can go out and be present, and you can make mistakes, and you can be human, and you can be um, one with what you're doing. And it doesn't rely on anything outside. And so my goal, like there's two parts of it where I go to a concert, and I've been to a concert where the opening band has wowed me, has just like blew me away. Band I never heard of before, playing and doing so good. And so I know that that's possible. But each time that I experienced that, it was because the band didn't go out on stage trying to impress me. They went out there in service of music, in
yeah,
service of the spirit of rock and roll, in service of that spirit of communal celebration. And so I know if I can get away from my own ego, if I can break through all that insecurity and all that desire to be validated or to be looked at a certain way, and just center in being of service to the song and to my brothers in collaboration and into the spirit of music, I know then I can accomplish that oneness, that presence. And that's my goal. That's my goal every time I walk on stage. And I get nervous because that's a big goal. I
It's
want to go out
huge.
there and be present. I don't want to go out there and look into the crowd and think like that guy hates me. That guy hates my voice. Like, and you have to do a certain amount as a human being and as a terribly insecure man. I have to do a certain amount of stretching emotionally to get to a place where I can let go of all those things and really just celebrate music, you know?
So, if now your mindset has changed and it's took time and you've had to really kind of do a different thought process, when you do a show and you're not thinking, I need to be validated by this crowd, where does the validation now come from?
So when I'm on stage and I'm singing and I'm moving to the music and I'm doing it fully present, there is like an electric current that comes from like your core center and goes through your whole body. There's a joy. It's comparable to joy.
Yeah.
I think I think people get it in Pentecostal churches when they speak in tongues, or in anybody that goes to a some kind of a celebration where they're all singing and dancing together. And there's a validation that comes through that when you fully let go of all those things. You're not afraid of how you look, you're not afraid of how you sound or making mistakes, and you're just kind of giving yourself to the spirit of music. There's an electric, I can't even, there aren't words to describe that feeling. It's a high, it's beyond a high, it's fully connected. I believe it's what people think when they feel presence with God.
Yeah.
And when I can flow with that feeling, regardless of people in the room dancing or not, regardless of people in the room at all, I know I've done a good job. I know when that feeling is present, then I'm giving myself fully to what I need to. You know, I'm giving myself fully to the music, fully to the balance, the harmony of it, and I'm not letting my own desire to get in the way of it. And like there's also this feeling when you're in a room that becomes electric with connectivity where I can't help but feel that as well. Like if the crowd is going wild and everybody's connected, like I can't ignore that, you know?
No.
But I can kind of hone my frequency to only charge up on those certain things that the muse can only give you. You know, there will be times where I'll sing something and I'll sing it in a way, and the way that I sang it makes me feel like I'm doing a good job. You know what I mean? Like
I love this. Yeah.
and you could be in the crowd and be like, man, he didn't sing that like it is on the record. Like, I don't really like that, you know, but I don't know that
No.
because I'm just in this moment. And like, um, I think that when you see somebody fully present in what they're doing, it's like it's enveloping. You know, it's a when you see somebody fully immersed in what they're doing, it's like a beautiful thing. And so my goal is to try to get fully immersed in what I'm doing and not let things from the outside really affect it, you know? And
It's
there's a
rare. It's rare as well. Like
it
to
is rare.
be,
I'm not saying I do that. Like I can't do it all the time. It's a practice. So you
yeah.
fall in and out of it, you know?
And
And
you can't
sometimes
stage it. You can't fake it. I've seen bands that are very transparent. I love the bands. They do a reunion tour, but it
yeah,
seems like it's a show. It's like put on. And then when I do
yeah.
see it, it's authentic. I was watching randomly some YouTube clips of Radiohead doing Glastonbury headlining, and Tom York was singing. Obviously, there's like nearly 100,000 people or something like this in the crowd, and he gets lost in the music. And I'm watching him with his eyes shut, and he's singing with this acoustic guitar. It was exit music for a film,
Oh,
and honestly, I was just it's insane that you can be in the field with 100,000 people playing a song that's almost 20 years old, and he doesn't know where he is, and the music is doing the talking, and he's singing differently to OK Computer,
yeah.
but it doesn't matter because he's in a moment where he doesn't even need to remember what the OK Computer recording was like. It's because the music's kind of over. I think it's like taken over,
Yeah.
and it's
That's what it's
so
about.
rare, but it's
That's what it's
incredible.
about. It's crazy that it's rare when you think about it because that's what it's all about.
It is.
That's what it's about. And it's almost like the records are sort of just like capturing those little moments and then suffocating them into a thing that we can share, but the real living thing is what you witnessed live when he lost himself.
Yeah, it's so true.
I guarantee in that moment when he was lost that he felt a connection to something greater, and that people who are tuned into that frequency watching that is a reminder that there is something greater to be tuned into. Even if that greater thing is a unified force. Even if it's like not, doesn't have to be some guy in the clouds. That greater thing could just be a song.
It
That
is,
greater
yeah.
thing could just be music in and of itself, or two people coming together or a group coming together. That's beautiful.
It
That's
is.
the, that's why the religion of music, the spirituality of music is what interests me the most. And I try to find things that are blocking that spiritual growth of music, and try to ignore them. You know,
And because
and
you've
of
had
course, like
it,
I want to, we all want to
yeah,
be, we all want to be you don't put art in the world without wanting to share. Like you want to share it. You want to make connections with humans, and you want to connect with each other, and that's great. But the second your like human desires to be validated start like coming in and fucking with those outputs, you really got to check yourself, because even if you do get all the success in the world, you're not going to be you're going to be happy.
it's beautiful. And I hope, that you get it again and as often as you can, because once you've had a taste of it, it's going to be like a drug. You're going to want it all the time, but you can't, I don't think you can seek it out. I think you just need to let it happen. And when the moment is meant to happen, it'll just happen, if that makes sense. You can't go
It
out there and be
happened.
like,
It happened while you were talking about Radiohead.
yeah,
While you were describing Radiohead, I felt this connecting with you
yeah,
and connecting to that moment. And yeah, you can't force it. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be vulnerable and open. And that's where it comes from. And that's where the crowd feels it. That's where you feel it with the crowd. That's where you feel it with your own craft. That's where it exists. You can't force it. You can't beckon it. You have to, it comes to you when you're doing the work, when
yeah.
you're getting vulnerable, when you're being honest.
Oh man, I love this. And I
Music is great.
it is.
I
I'm
could
gonna
literally talk about music. I could talk about music all day. And the best thing about this project to me is, at the end of the day, this isn't about us being rock stars or us being this giant band. It's about us really shining the light on music and art and creativity, and how taking putting implementing creativity in your life in any way will help you with what you're going through. That's it.
I'm really looking forward to having the actual vinyl in my hands, because your cover is awesome. Like,
It's
when
cool.
you see an album cover and you're like, that's going to stand the test of time, like that
Yeah.
looks already like a classic album.
Right. Thank
I'm
you.
like, I want that
It's
now.
Gordy. That's Gordy. He's like our, yeah, he killed it. He absolutely killed it. And
It's
um
beautiful.
yeah, I love it so much. I'm so happy you enjoy the record. I can't wait to come play for you.
Oh, I'm going to come to the Birmingham show because that's the closest, and it's at a weekend as well, which is always handy. So I will make sure, and I want to see if any of you experience what we've talked about tonight now on stage. Because if
Thank
I
you.
see it, I'm going to be like, there it is.
Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna see it, I think.
I've got a feeling. I've got this like feeling
I'm br-
now. I'm like,
we're bringing it over. We're bringing it over there.
if not, I want my money back.
You'll get, yeah. Okay. Well, I'll keep like 20. I'll keep like 20 or 30 pound like in my pocket, just in
Yeah,
case you don't get it, and I'll make sure you get your refund.
amazing. Right, I've got one more question, and I
Yeah.
do this with every guest that comes on. As the episode is all ready for the world to listen to, a song will play, and you can choose, and this is going to be difficult after today's chat, any song that means a hell of a lot to you that you would love to be played as the outro song. So it'll literally have the whole episode edited completely, and then the final piece of music is one that you, as the guest, choose. And I have done this for over 400 guests now on Mark and Me. So it's your
Whoa.
time to pick a song, and it could be. I think the best thing to do, because you're so influenced and so passionate about music, is pick the song that comes to your heart first when I ask the question, because there's probably 1,000 right now, but one will come to the top.
Yeah, it did actually. Right when you first said that, it's a song. It's a classical song called "Clair de Lune"
Okay.
by Debussy. And it's a beautiful song, and it's in a lot of movies. People have used it in movies for like, um, but it's my calming song. Like if I'm ever like really far, if I ever get too far out there, like this song helps ground me. And it's just such a beautiful. There's something in the song that admits that the world is imperfect, but is striving to accept all of the little magical mysteries that hide in the imperfections. And
Ah,
it was a song
perfect.
I played it for my kids when they were first born, like their first songs, and it's one of my favorite songs, Claire de Lune.
Perfect. I've really enjoyed today, and I feel like
Me too.
we could do like a 10-part special,
Yeah.
and we'll revisit Jeff Buckley,
Oh,
Radiohead. We could, there's so much we could do, but let's keep this as a special. It's great for the album, and then when the time's right, maybe for your third album or whatever happens when our paths cross again, we'll do another special. And yeah, there's going to be many paths I think we'll cross together when there's so many festivals in the UK, there's so much tour. There will
let's
be
make a
more
deal.
chance.
Let's make a deal. I'm gonna keep making music that means something to me for as long as I possibly can. And as long as I can do that, let's try to find time to talk about it.
I will hold you to it because I've had, for example, Alex Winter, Neil Blomkamp, Kat Von D on 3 or 4 times each.
Yeah.
So the door is always open.
To be continued.
Lovely. Thank you so much for your time today. I will let you go and hang out with your kids now and have a family
Awesome.
day. And
Thanks, Mark.
I
Also,
will
I just
tag
want to
you.
say I want to say all the stuff that you make for this, like the Mark and Me stuff, like with the just the all the art that you do with the old movie with the Mac and Me
Yeah.
stuff. I just think it's brilliant and really funny. And
Thank you.
I was like a child of the '80s, so like I really think that shit's funny.
You're the same
And
age as me, and I was hoping that some people are like, "Is that Mac and Me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's the
yeah,
film that
bro.
E.T. wanted to be." And then
Yeah,
other people are like, "That's a stupid film," but it just works.
yeah. I mean, honestly, what is it's if it's stupid, it would a stupid film wouldn't make it this long with all so many references and like, that's just the beauty of everything is who's to say what's stupid? Something that's made in jest could just be, fuck.
We're on the
All right.
same page, but let's continue this, and
All
I
right.
will see you in Birmingham in about 2.5 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks, Mark.
Awesome. Take care.
You too.
Bye now.
Bye.
So there's my interview with me and Anthony Green. What an amazing guy. His energy, his level and depth of his thought process. I absolutely admire him. I love his bands. I love all the bands he's been in. But LS Dunes are on another level right now to any other band. I truly mean it. I've been obsessed with the album and I urge you all to go and listen. If you ever see them playing any shows near you, go and check it out. I've seen so many great live reviews of them supporting Rise Against recently in the UK, and I can't wait to hopefully see them at festivals and their own shows in the very near future. If you're listening to this right now, all I ask is you take the time to share the episode. Loads of people are talking about LS Dunes right now. They've got so many great members of the bands that have been in other bands previously, and it's really important to get the word out there. So as you're listening, go on your Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you use, and just hit the retweet button or the share button and tell people about this episode, because it's the only way that I can build Mark and Me and take it to the next level. It's surprising, but you will not realise just how much of an impact that little button of hitting share can do. So please, as you're listening, do that for me and I'll continually and always be grateful to you for doing that. I do also have a Patreon account to help keep the lights on for the podcast. To host a podcast on all these different directories costs money, and to obviously travel the country to these venues to record these interviews costs me money. I make no money from Mark and Me, but all the money that comes in from Patreon goes into a pot and basically allows me to go out there and record more episodes for you guys at home. And also, before I go, there's 2 sponsors of the podcast I want to give a shout out to. Vice Press, who for me are the best company out there for posters, for movies and collectibles. They have some incredible new t-shirts as well. Go and visit vicepress.com, add something to the basket and use the discount code MarkandMe10 and you'll get 10% off your first purchase. And trust me, they've got some incredible stuff, all licensed and some of the best artists out there, so you will want to buy absolutely loads of stuff. And secondly, Richer Sounds. If you're in the market for a brand new TV, maybe a hi-fi, no one says hi-fi anymore, but no one even says stereo. But if you want a record deck, I think no one even says that. But if you want anything to do with audio and visual, go on richersounds.com or visit any of their high streets. I'm so grateful for these companies for sponsoring Mark and me, and it really means the world. I'm not going to leave it so long now to bring you another episode of Mark and Me. I've had some personal circumstances I needed to be there for, so I'm sorry for the delay, but I'm back now and you'll be getting another episode in just a couple of days' time. So until then, please go and check out LS Dunes. You will not regret it, and I'll speak to you all very soon.